Chris McNaughty. Chris has been an airport worker for 25 years and has occupied many positions in the GMB. At the moment, he's the national panel rep for British Airways, and I think it hasn't gone unnoticed that in the line in the disputes that are lining up facing the Labour movement, the British Airways workers are kind of foremost, and we're waiting to see how that dispute pans out. So I'll leave it to Chris to explain.
Thanks so much, Linda. Listening to John speak just before me was, a lot of deja vu in what he was saying. The person who orchestrated the industrial relations for management, who wrote documents and all the rest of it, prepared management to take on the CW in the post office, was a guy called Tony McCarthy, who famously doesn't do people. And British Airways went out and headhunted him, believe it or not, to head up our people department. So you can imagine what if like industrial relations and British Airways, the turn it has taken in the past 9 months or so under the leadership of Tony McCarthy in that department. We are now faced with imposition instead of negotiation. We are faced with diktat from the company rather than discussion. And so what I hear from John and the fact that McCarthy's moved on and they've managed to defeat his plans he left behind, I hope, is an echo of the future that we'll be able to defeat him in the coming months, actually in person. Now, the roots of the disputes that are coming in British Airways, in reality, is obviously is rooted in the economic crisis that is going on within the aviation industry around the world, not just in this country. And of course, what the British Airways would like to do, because it's entered this crisis in like a cash pile, it's not a company that's going to go bust tomorrow, even though the management has deliberately tried to form a sense of crisis. It's been in the press for the fact, companies aren't going bust when the chief executive is in the paper telling you it will do so in 4 weeks' time. And frankly, when you're an airline, that's like suicidal. Because who's going to book tickets? Who's going to fly? It's just nonsense. It was an obvious, negotiating position, a bizarre one for the company to take to go ahead and try and create that atmosphere of crisis. And the reason it wants to create crisis, create this sense of panic within the workforce, is because it's not interested in temporary concessions. Although it's imposed a 2-year wage freeze, it wants more. And of course, while it implements wage freezes on the workforce, it pays its chief executive 7.5% basic increase, because it's not going to get bonuses on profits when you're posting losses, and so on. That his pension will be boosted by 20% this year, because of course that mirrors the fall in the stock exchange. It's clear just how much the bosses are prepared to continue to feather their own nests in recession while demanding concessions from us. Now, what is going on in cabin crew is basically the company's trying to tell the world, and trying to tell them, that it doesn't really want any change. It's not going to affect the workers and cabin crew that are currently working for the company. That BA, just going forward, wants to set up a new contract. It's calling it New Fleet, which will be on half the wages of current cabin crew, and therefore people who recruits into cabin crew and British Airways in the future will be on half the wages of the current crews. Now, if you're a member of cabin crew, you tend to have a very low basic wage, and you double that in allowances. And of course, what's coming is that if they get away with setting up New Fleet and setting up this new contract, they'll move the best routes into that New Fleet and new contract, therefore actually damaging the wages and the take-home pay of the current cabin crew. It's clear attack, if you like, on terms and conditions and real structural change going forward, where the company wants to get away not with just temporary concessions, but permanent concessions. So this is the music, I think, of the future, that what capitalism wants is the future jobs to be less well paid, worse terms and conditions, no pensions, and and so on. It's, if you like, attack on the future class, not just the current workers. Now also what's going on with the BA is we've had basically a non-compulsory redundancy agreement since 1948. Now that doesn't help the company. If it thinks it can recruit new people in the future on half the wages and worse terms and conditions than we currently got. So obviously it wants to get rid of the 1948 agreement and bring in compulsory redundancies, inevitably therefore getting rid of older, more expensive workers in preparation for bringing in the new, enthusiastic workforce, which McCarthy has reported to have said to a management meeting, apparently to great applause, that staff should be like lemons. If you go to the marketplace, you buy them, you cut them in half, you squeeze the juice, and then you throw them away. And that's the kind of vicious, if you like, capitalism that faces us in the future if we don't stand up and actually defeat these contracts. They see workers coming in and out of the industry for 3, 4 or 5 years while they're still enthusiastic, young, and so on, and then you go and find a proper job after you've worked for the airline for that for a while. Now, obviously, from the shop stewards level, there was about 800 to 900 shop stewards in British Airways. We're absolutely determined to resist all this change, and it's within that community that the real determination to struggle exists, and it's from that community, against, if you like, the wishes of the national leaderships of the GMB, Unite, BALPA, and so on, who frankly see industrial peace as they see it as more important, if you like, to give Gordon Brown and New Labour a free run into the election rather than stand up and support and defend their own union members who are attempting to go into struggle in a united way. Now, obviously, if all British Airways workers stood up together, the company wouldn't have a chance. So therefore, it's attempted to if you like, to put what appears to be negotiated concessions on the table to withdraw all the outstanding failures to agree conflicts in each of its, from loading on the ramp to check-in staff to backroom staff and all the rest of it, in order just to isolate cabin crew and attempt to take them on in this showdown. The cabin crew ballot has been initiated and is going to go ahead. There's 14,000 cabin crew in British Airways, which is basically about a third of the workforce. That ballot will absolutely, definitely be overwhelmingly in support of industrial action. It will run for 6 weeks, and its outcome will be announced on 14th of December with the intention to perhaps take industrial action on the 21st of December, just in time for the Christmas period, when inevitably British Airways hopes to fly its planes full and at the most profitable times. It's the one time, it's the one opportunity to take industrial action and to actually bring the company to the table. I'm hoping that other sections of workers will get ballots and will be able to stand side by side with the cabin crew over Christmas, because genuinely, a victory for British Airways staff in this dispute is a victory for us all, because another defeat prepares the way for what's really coming in the public sector and all the rest of it next year. It's time. It's not just one victory or one defeat at a time. We have to stand together and defeat this imposition from the bosses, defeat these new contracts, and a victory for one is a victory for all.